Moo and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pictron. I am Brent Robinson, and I am joined today by Craig Martin. Craig, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a Yippee IPA from Picaroons.
That's a very fun can. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It has a man who literally is the embodiment of Yippee doing a proper heel click in the air.
Well, it really, I mean, to Canadians of the appropriate age, it embodies the Log Driver's Waltz National Film Board production.
Sure, for sure. And we also have we're gonna go John Keenan next. John, what are you drinking?
Well, I raided the local Whole Foods for some more mushroom-based beverages, and this is another Rebel, Rebbl, but it's chocolate hazelnut and all kinds of crazy mushrooms. So the chocolate really does hide the weird mushroom flavor. I got to give it props.
Good, good. All right, and we also have Steve Pritchard. Steve, what are you drinking?
Yeah, I'm drinking a cup of tea, mainly because I'm doing some weight doping at the moment and have gained a 3 kilogram impediment on my Zwifting, which is testing my sleep patterns at the moment. But yeah, maybe
Anything else new in your life?
we are in a congratulations situation.
It is a big time congratulations situation. Steve Pritchard has a new baby boy. Get the name wrong though.
We do,
Right?
yeah. Jack, who arrived on Saturday, so I'd warmed up for that nicely by doing herd winter racing. So I was nice and tired when we had to go off to the hospital later that evening. So would not recommend as a training program
Big,
or as
big.
a way to prepare for your wife giving birth. Put it.
I'm trying
Ah,
I'm trying to think back to like my kids. Like one was born on Thanksgiving, basically, like the night after Thanksgiving. So we like had a giant turkey meal. We're all just laying around being fat and lazy. And then she's like, "Oh, I think we better go to the hospital." That's my oldest. I think
But
she
you
had
wanted
another
to stay
boy.
home and do all the dishes, right, Brent?
Uh, I think actually we were at her parents' house for Thanksgiving, so
Oh,
they were doing all this stuff.
we have been told that, rhythmic swaying can help soothe the baby. So I'm not sure if it's too early to get a rocker plate and try and attach
Oh,
the
that
cot
would
to
be
them somehow.
brilliant. With like
Yeah.
the little bub while you're like
Yeah.
pedaling along. Why is this
No,
voice
no
so inactive?
sprints.
Speaking of things that'll make you want to have a baby, we're doing 2 times of a dirt climb in HWR this week for the Spirit Forest. Yeah, I guess. I mean, the course is not too much to write home about, I guess. Like, start down at the, what do we call these? Fisherman's Village pens, up into the dirt, straight up the dirt to the thing, and you come down and you cut across, and then over toward the Castle Village, back over to the start of the climb, then back up Temple Ford. 2 times,
yep.
finish at the top.
A mere 13.1 kilometers.
But lots of dirt and lots of climb.
Yeah. So I mean, I
Lots
think
of
the
dirt.
topic, of course, for this whole thing, number one is bike choices gravel, yeah.
I think so. I don't think mountain bike really makes sense other unless you have a downhill finish.
Yeah.
So on the it was the handful of gravel maybe, but was that the one? Whatever the one that's the top end of the jungle circuit. But on this one where you're finishing on the climb, I think it's the gravel bike.
And there haven't been any new hip gravel releases like there have for their road bikes. I haven't been paying attention to gravel bikes. What's
After
been
Nothing, I
they
put
don't
out.
think.
Yeah.
after they deprecated the gravel, it wouldn't have made sense to make new, better gravel bikes, but
Right. Right.
what do they
Unless
we
the
got
sponsors wanted it.
Spesh Crux. That's the
Yeah,
fastest.
I usually go with the Cervelo Sparrow, but which is
Sparrow,
essentially
Sparrow.
the same. Yeah.
I think either of those two. The Canyon Grail is probably damn near as close, eh? Can't be
I
far.
think so.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then make sure you
Yeah,
do.
apparently the Crux was 7 seconds faster at Mount Zwift in Eric's test and climbing, and in the jungle it's 1 second faster than the Grail. So yeah,
This
and the
is going to be
Asper is two
shorter than
seconds slower than the Grail. So it's
going to be less mileage than both of those. So yeah.
Hmm.
I was saying Eric has also done some tests of the bikes on pavement in the flat, which the kind of three reverse each other. So kind of one of those three will be slightly faster up the climb. You'll be
Mhm.
slightly slower on the tarmac.
Then make sure you get either the Envy or Cadex wheels, right? Isn't there? Both of them are kind of
Yes.
the same, basically.
Both of
Like,
them are better than the default, and I don't think there's any real difference.
and like a
Yeah.
lot better. So make sure if you got them, if you got whatever drops you want, those other wheels, there's a big difference on the wheels, and I know that.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then I'd say the strategy is hold on, but man, there's got to be some pacing on this one, I think, compared to your normal flat hold on HWR. Like if you murder yourself and you got to go back up a second time, you might lose ground. I think you really want to find your pace that you think you can handle two times up on this one compared to maybe your normal average HWR.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I think in some ways it will make it a better race for people in lower categories because with this in the lead, and we said it before, you're going to find your group quite early on. However, I think there is always that balance of like working out is your group the one you're in which case, if you hold on, they'll probably be pretty steady on the flat and the descent, and you'll just have to hurt again next up the climb, or is your group actually the one that's falling off the back now? In which case, you've kind of got that bargaining to do as to whether you think you can stay and stay in the group, or whether it's tactically best to drop off and recover and beat the guys that you're beating up the climb already.
And I think even with because like that pen from the pens to the start of the dirt is uphill too. And it's uphill
Yeah.
pavement, right, for a while. So, you gotta decide maybe even quite early on whether or not you're gonna try and murder yourself on that bit or save it for the steeper bits later on to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all the tips for this one. Anybody, anything else?
It's gonna hurt. Expect that and go.
I'm already so like I know we're just talking about these races, but I did TTT ZRL this week, and we had a ladder race last night, and I've taken up some strength training this week to start like try and remedy my lack of sprint that keeps dying. And I'll tell you, by the end of that Thursday ladder race, I was so like you talk about the bargaining, it was like, no, no, you go. I'm done. We did win, so it was okay.
Uh,
All right. All right. Next up is Herd Beginner Racing is Electric Loop.
Yeah, electric loop. Two times
Oh,
for the D's and E's and three times for the A, B, and C pens. I think
Oh,
Nate
it's
gave us times. I remember the low 40s for the three laps.
Two
And
laps for D's and E's, threes for A's and B's. Yeah, low 40s for those doing 3 laps. Two
yeah,
laps was about 30 minutes,
30.
with the longest person doing that about 39 minutes, says Nate. So I don't know Electric Loop. I think I have ridden it. I'm so used to talking about TikTok on this one. Electric Loop is it's the one in Mercury where you do the two
You're in
sprints
Neokio.
and tower.
yeah, it's all
It's
just
got
the
to be
Indiana
nearly as
over
flat
top.
as TikTok.
See, weirdly with this one, without checking the elevations, this is flat. I don't think you are getting dropped. I know we say the kind of coat to saddle springs and the climb out of the tunnel are those places where if you're not paying attention, you can get dropped. I don't think there are too many places like that on this route. It is pretty pancake.
There's nothing.
So yeah, stay in the draft. Expend minimum watts. Um, Fastest aero bike. or a Tron if you just want to look cool.
For sure. All right, you want to do Climber's Gambit, Steve?
Yeah, Steph sent this through this week, so I will sip on a lemon Fanta and do my best impression of Steph. He said it's on Yorkshire KOM forward, which is 1.2 kilometers at 5.5%. The climb starts at 7.7 kilometers, so you can warm up en route. Good for people like me who barely have socks on when they start a ride. Bike choice wise, he said that Zwifter Bikes recommends a full climber for him, so that's the Athos with Alpinist wheels. Kind of makes sense with the percentages on Yorkshire Com, being that steep. Although
Uh,
this is a TT effort, isn't it? Yorkshire Com forward's kind of it's a step climb, isn't it? So you do the steep bit, a slightly flatter bit, and then the steep bit again. And my strategy on this has always been to go as hard as I can on the steep bit, try and recover a little bit on that slightly flatter bit. I'd say flat. I think it goes to 5%. Try and recover a bit there, and then go hard on the steeper bit at the end. Um, but I don't know. I don't climb this one particularly well, I think. So may just be a hit your power and go really.
Yeah, and I think the lead into it is down, like there's a really, really steep downhill, right? So you want to try and like do pick up momentum on the downhill and try and carry that into the start of the climb and go in because you will definitely save time if you try and I don't know, be too
big
lazy
time.
going in. You want
Big
to try and
time.
carry that momentum as long as you can. Yeah, I think if you're fast, you might want to think about the Pinarello and maybe like the DT, the Swiss DT 62s or whatever, or something like that. Like something a little more aero because it is like it's steep, but that top part isn't still feels awfully fast to me. Like it feels
You're
like the
moving.
opposite.
You're moving.
Yeah.
Like it's steep, but it's short. Like it's only going to be, I don't know what.
Not even 2 minutes, a little over two
Yeah,
minutes.
so Brent and Chris have done this in 2 minutes 26, which looks like it might have been a race, at nearly 30 kph.
Yeah,
Uh, so yeah, Sean's done a 2:38. Um, Nate Holmes done a 2:48. Just to kind of show you where that is. My best is a 2:57. Even that's at 25 kph, 24 and a half. So
I did a
yeah.
215, but that was a long time ago.
I mean, here's an illustrative one. Ben Poynton's done so Ben is a big guy, and he's done a 2:56
Yep,
on that, at 420 watts. I'm just going to check the event there because that might have been a time trial as well.
I
No,
actually
it's
did this on
WT,
Stampede three
WTRL. I
times.
did that in, so maybe a bit of draft, but yeah, I don't like to disagree with Swifter bikes, but I
I do.
would be. I would be tempted to go something at like I'd probably be thinking Pinarello with some. I'm not even. I don't know. I'd love to do it twice and compare some climber wheels with some slightly aero climber wheels, like the Swift. What are they? The 454s or the 808s? I can't remember. There's the ones that've got like a 3 and 4 star rating on in game, or the NVs that have good all round capability as well. Just because like we say, that descent, if you can gain a few kph there that you carry through onto the segment, that could make a big difference.
I've done three Stampedes on here. None of them under 3 minutes, so
I don't think I've ever done a time trial on this.
yeah, I think like I said, the lower guys you can probably get away with maybe the lighter bikes will be going slower, but if you're a B or an A, you definitely think you want the Pinarello. It's so light and arrow, like it's hard to beat. And then yeah, either like the DT Swiss 62s, the Zip 454s, or the NV 3.2s.
Yeah.
Good. Mountain Goats this week is Peak Performance,
Oh,
which has Titans Grove, the whole southeast coast, up the grade over to the Epic banner, and then down the other side. And it looks like it's just going to finish it downtown. So he hasn't put anything, and normally we'd finish at the top, but I think he's got the whole route in. So
Yeah.
it's a scratch race, but that's a very long race. So
I was expecting the grade top finish, but
But you probably don't have the badge. So race it for the badge.
absolutely.
good. And Stampede this week is Eats a Climb Finish. I have it near as 30. I think it's closer to 31 with the lead in, but it's basically, yeah, downtown through the tunnels, over to the roundabout out of the desert, over the southeast coast, over to the Mayan Itza climb, and up Mayan Itza, finish at the Itza banner. So
Sounds like two separate races. Sounds like a long flat race and then a short climb.
basically, that's right.
Yeah.
Not super steep. So yeah, still your, I think it's still full arrow because it's so long flat. And then just you gotta make sure you save enough gas for those last 6K up the hill.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is a fun pacing exercise, this, isn't it? Because you're gonna spend quite a lot of time on the flat, so you still want to go there fast. It's not like Bologna where that's sort of roughly 50-50, isn't it? It's your 50% of your time on the flat, 50% of your time on the climb. But you've got the potential to lose a lot more time on the climb than you have on the flat. So yeah, tricky on this.
I actually did Stampede last week on that Richmond loop around. Actually, it was lovely. So we did the Richmond loop around time trial, which was every bit as horrible as you can imagine. Um, those stupid climbs and everything. And then I really, when I got to the 16K mark before he did the last climb up that grindy bottom one, I was like, I really would have tried to put the finish line here, but did okay. And then Alan Richardson and I did staying around and finished the whole Richmond loop around coast to get to 40 kilometers afterward. So it was like another loop back down, another one around Fan Flats, and then back down again the other direction. It was nice that Alan was there. I don't know if I would have done it if it was just me, honestly.
Yeah, Richmond's one of those courses I can race, but I will never choose it for a leisurely ride.
Those climbs are tough, really
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
All right, bullseye, Craig.
So Bullseye, we're gonna go for and you know what? I'll admit that I haven't actually checked that I can do this yet, but Classic Reverse.
Hmm.
So a rare route. It's not. Somebody complained to me recently that they couldn't find any events for this event-only route. So yeah, sure.
Because I've got it in Stampede for next week,
Do you really?
2 weeks from now.
I
For
didn't
St.
even
Peter.
look. Yeah, I didn't even look, but
Good. So it's just at the sprint banner. That's every time.
yep, just the sprint banner every time, including the lead-in. Yeah. I want to apologize because the classic for last week, there is no lap for that route. So we counted the sprint every time plus the finish.
Well, there's not a
Oh, I
lap
see.
banner.
There's no lap segment. Yeah,
So that isn't a lead in that first part before you get to Jarvis.
it is,
It is, but they don't count.
but there's no lap inner segment. So because there's
Mhm.
no lap segment and there's no sprint segment there, there's nothing to count on Zwift Power. So
Okay, interesting. Duly noted for next time.
duly noted for next time, but I didn't know going in.
Good. All right. Uh, so I think that's the weekend herd racing. That brings us to the news. And the news in Zwift racing this week is, as it has been every week, it feels like for the last 12 weeks. I don't know how long since they first put this in September. Is
Oh.
more changes to ZRS. Who wants to take their first crack at explaining this?
So what happened is they decided that the seed score they were using and well, I think their current implementation is overly dependent on seed score anyway, was over counting 30-second power too much. So we're going to come up with a new seed score. So they did. And it was just flat 10-minute watts per kilogram. And then a bunch of, very small racers with high watts per kilogram ended up with extremely high, or, they went up 100, over 100 points, and I went down 100 points. So, that didn't seem to work out quite right. So, I mean, in, Zwift's credit, they took all of 2 days to say, oh no. And so ZRS 2.0 had a 2-day lifespan, and ZRS 3.0 is being calculated as we speak. I haven't seen any updates to my score yet, but
I was going to say we should caveat this with by the time this publishes, it could be something else. But
the way we're going now, what they're doing right now appears to be directly using ZwiftRacing.app's modified compound score. So now there was some language where it kind of sounded like they were modifying it. I'm like, why are you modifying this? But hopefully they're not actually modifying it. Just use compound score. Tim, that's been iterated a bunch of times now and seems to be pretty good. My criticism still is that it's not, your score doesn't seem to move enough after, outside of the seed score. That's my criticism of the system as they've got it implemented right now. But we'll see if they turn up the variance a little bit after they get the seed score right. Sorry, I'm done.
So I think, like I've said before, I think we have to kind of take the good out of this, which is Swift have updated this really quickly, haven't they? Which kind of, we've had things that have been a bit balked on Swift for a long time. And then, yeah, we're working on a thing, like trust us, we're doing a thing. And then this has been 2 days quick turnaround. And it sounds really positive that they're looking at Tim's system. Tim, isn't it, that does SwiftRacing.app?
It is,
Because that seems okay, smaller users, but kind of less complained about than a lot of the other systems. People seem to get where they are. They seem to be fairly happy where they are, that they race people. My experience with Flamme Rouge Racing, which used it, was that I was in the lower end of my category, but that's where I was in my category, spanned a few of the metals. That's where I was. And there were people who were a similar categorization to me that I raced against. So kind of it did what I think we all want racing systems to do, which is group you with people of a similar ability whom you can race against. I think the bit that seems interesting to me is there seem to be the most vocal voices seem to want a system that groups them in a bunch of races that they can race against and always finish in the top 5. Which ain't gonna happen.
And like never get dropped. Like I think even like that's you're like no, you're gonna get dropped sometimes. Like sometimes the hill's gonna be too steep or too long, or the other guys are gonna be different abilities than you. That's they always think they should finish in the finishing sprint, which like doesn't happen. Like
so one, every race finishing in a bunch sprint is not good. Some races finishing in a bunch sprint, all for it. But every race should not finish in a bunch sprint. I think we all agree on this, but the most vocal people on the Zwift forums, that is what they want.
And I think this is where kind of I'd look at how the Tour de France or Grand Tours classify their stages. So you'd have flat stages, medium mountains or rolling stages, and you have mountainous stages. And you could quite easily have this across Swift. Tim does it a bit with Swift Racing and kind of how they classify stages, and you go, these are the things I'm at. And if I choose to just do flat races because I'm a good sprinter and I win, then I should expect to move up to compete against better sprinters. And if I then get ejected from that bunch because my 20-minute power isn't high enough, I can't physically stay in the bunch. Like that's what would happen. Like if you put some of these big track racers in the Tour de France, yeah, sure, they can out sprint the Tour de France sprinters because they can drop 2,000 watts for a minute or whatever they do on the track, they're crazy numbers, but they probably can't ride the 5 or 6 hours, sorry, beforehand and then deliver that power because you're just a different type of rider. So kind of it would make those sprinters then have to get better at their 20-minute power to stay in a bunch to then deploy that massive power. So Craig is pointing to his BMX at the moment as an example of that, of people with sort of crazy watts but short time. So yeah, it's I think there's a bit of a kind of attitude adjustment required in the racing community, I think, for some people.
So
Go ahead, Chris.
I think the watts per kilogram, whether it was the CE with ZFTP and ZMAP or the old 95% of 20 minutes, whoever was the closest to that and had the biggest sprint was basically going to win almost all the time. I mean, it was a little bit on, there's some courses where if you could go above a bunch of times or, you had a really good 3 or 5 minute power or whatever, you might be able to drop the best sprinters. But it was the guys who were the closest to that limit were in the group to win all the time. And the guy, if you're one of the best, if you're a really good sprinter, you're going to end up with a higher ZRS than somebody who can outclimb you. And so you're going to lose some of the races that have a big climb. And that seems very reasonable that if you have the same categorization on different types of courses, different people are going to be the favorite.
Or if you're doing a good mix of races, some that are climby, some that are sprinty, then you should be like finishing like top sometimes, bottom sometimes, and it all should balance out. And in that mix should be like some sprinty guys, some climby guys, and they might try and do some other things to shake it up because not everybody's
And
abilities are so similar. But
And we talked about this last time. I think what SwiftRacing.app does really well is the velo adjusted prediction of where you're going to finish. So it still categorizes you for the race based on your overarching category, but it goes actually for this one. So for me, I'm on the cusp of gold, just about silver. It will go, hey, you're actually pretty gold for this next race because it really suits your power profile and 20 power, and we've done some funky math. And you should actually be finishing with this lot, not with this lot. And then if we have a climb, it'll go, well, actually, you're pretty silver now. So you're not going to stick with those guys at the front of the climb because your 20-minute power is not good enough. Like this is so you can look at that and go, these are the folks I'm going to be racing. Like, am I going to be the hammer or the nail in this race? And some weeks you're the nail, right? You just sit there and kind of do what you do. And I think if that was delivered in game, it would be brilliant because people could go, right, your predicted finish is this, and suddenly you've got a carrot which isn't I'm going to win the sprint at the end of the race.
Yeah, it's can I beat 15th? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, Craig, the other thing that you've nailed is saying that it's over reliant on this whole seed scoring. Like the whole point of ZRS is to be results based. But
Yeah.
when like we're all like worried about where this seed score pushes us, it really like I get it puts you into like 1 or 2 or 3 races, but like it should after like I don't know what the right number is, but something it feels like to me 3 to 5 races, it should be irrelevant. Like you should be that's the score you are now, and it'll move up a little bit and down from there, but you're gonna get awfully close by even like 10 races. I would say it should be able to predict where you're going to finish against the other guys, and that's where you're going to be. And then it shouldn't change much after that.
Yeah. So I think the problem right now is the 85% floor for a lot of people isn't enough to move down a category, or it's not enough to move down a pen. So if your seed score has you too high, you're there because so I think if they can get the other anti-tanking measures working, then the 85% should go. That's what I think, or at least be loosened.
And maybe some of that comes from changing like category boundaries and all the other
Yeah.
kind of part that I'll have to kind of, I think, work with this. But like, this is the thing I don't understand. If you're saying my seed score is too high, but like, if it's treating every other 50 kilo, 250 watt threshold rider the same, and I know they're getting dropped by guys like me who are 83 kilos and riding 320 watts for 20 minutes, more like 300 these days, if I'm being honest. Um, but should there not be like five or six of you that are all about the same? And the second we hit the mountains, you're beating us all. Like this is what I don't. Do you know what I mean? I guess there's just maybe
It's
very many
but
of them or whatever. But like, ugh.
how extreme was the extreme case? Because that's like there aren't that many 50 kilo. Like it's all of us on this call are fairly like we are more like each other than we are unlike each other. Like height, weight wise, we're in a pretty narrow band. Even though kind of I'm quite sure some of you guys are quite tall. Like Sean, we know is very tall, but actually we're all very similar weight, so probably these tweaks don't affect us as much. Although John and I were now identical, aren't we? And under the new tweaks, but
Yeah.
having been moved around.
And then I think there was a lot of angst about seeing your score change even though you didn't do a race. So I think that just like turned up the stress of ZRS and the score and people not happy with it.
I think you're probably right, John. I think I guess maybe we'll just wrap this up by all saying like we're still happy Zwift is doing results-based scoring. We're happy they're making adjustments to it. Just go out and race and have fun. And HWR has no category, so you don't have to worry about it.
HWR, it's liberating. It's been
It
really
is.
liberating of like, okay, I know these five or six names and I'm going to try to hang on to them. When I'm with Sean, I know I can't. So it's just a matter of how long can I hang on, right?
Well,
So,
so weirdly, going back to Zwift Racing app, and I think this is where if you get it right, it's really good. I will look at the sign-ups on Zwift Racing app for HWR to identify who are the people that are
yeah.
around my category that I'm like, God, I've got to keep that. If they're still in that group, I've got to keep with them. Or if
Hmm.
they're flying out the back, I'm like, I'm flying today. This is
I'm
brilliant.
golden. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they got it right, it does have like it's just that motivated potential. But yeah,
Mhm.
well moved on with us, Brent. There were many un-Canadian eye rolls during that segment, which I particularly enjoyed.
Yeah.
Not at you guys, not at you guys. Just your description of other people in the world and how they're doing it.
Yeah.
All right. That brings us to round the horn. We're gonna start with Marjolein's suggestion. So Marjolein messaged us to say that over the winter break, so the last HWR that's currently scheduled is for December 20th. And then the next three races after that over the winter break, so like the 27th, January 4th, and I guess January 11th. Oh, and then I don't know, I don't want to spoil it, but I think the next thing is Omnium. Um,
January.
um, maybe. Don't quote me on that. Sorry, Marilyn. But over those 3 weeks, she's going to do some different, unique types of races. So they're going to be HWR style, and they'll be all cats, almost certainly scratch races. But she's going to like be a little more creative on the route selection. So
And interestingly, split the time slots as well. So race one and two will still be short routes, but the weekend slots, the 3 to 7, will be longer races. So if you want to do HWR, you can
Yeah.
still do kind of quick blast on a Friday.
And we're
yeah,
not
they're
going
going
to
to be
be doing
one-offs.
like
They're not all
they're
amalgamated.
one-offs. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
So I would be interested in what can we do with those Friday slots, because that race one slot especially, like that has become Zwifter elite. Um, yeah, I almost want to let's go to them. Scorekeeper, what do you want?
Well, that way maybe one of us has to get in a race to put that in. But
Yeah.
I'll just say like I feel like all this like one and two both feel very fast, and that
Yeah.
Sunday morning time is also freaking killer. I've done that twice, and
Yep.
the two times I did it, it was the fastest slot of the weekend, both times.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh no, they're all fast,
Yeah,
but
they're all fast.
that race one, the last couple of weeks has been just crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think race 2 is that fast because it's usually pretty small-ish groups, right? Because
Yeah. It's
all of
usually
Europe
small.
is asleep, and so it's just like
Yeah.
the western half of North America and Australia and New Zealand.
So race 6 is normally the slowest, or
Mm.
at least the smallest. It depends, as far as the winter time, sometimes that depends on, you know,
That's what's that, 1 a.m.
forecast.
UTC? So
Yeah.
I say it's like 6 p.m. on a Saturday night
mm.
here, I think.
Yeah. So 9 p.m. here.
So what would we do as crazy long routes at the weekend then?
So I
The
think
one,
I'm just going to throw out there, PRL full is too much.
Oh, come on. I said Purell. I said I know it's supposed to be scratched. I said Purell full, but only time on box, like your cumulative time on box counts.
well, that would be interesting. Yeah.
So
So
at
I
least I
think
don't
you
have to
could,
try and ride hard for
I
six.
knew you said that. I knew it was coming.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think you
yeah.
could do that, but I think PRL half is the limit of ridiculousness there.
It'd still be fun. Well,
Yeah.
it'd still be a ride.
No, it'd still be ridiculous, but it's half as much.
Yeah.
The one that sounds really interesting to me because we don't control it would be Power to the Portal, which you do like that. I think you do that southern, it's a longish ride, and then you get to the volcano portal, and then you have to do whatever is on offer.
Is that available as an event now?
It's event available, yeah. And I think
Oh,
ZRL or somebody is one of Zwift's race series is doing it as the third race. I forget which.
I saw the announcement that was coming. I didn't realize it was out. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm totally in for whatever that is. That would be a good
And
one. I
you'd
like
have to
that.
time it right? Because I know they change the portal periodically at, I assume, zero
They give you the
UTC.
tourmalet and you've got a 2.5 hour climb at the end.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Still
But if
better
you
than
do it
none
on the
zone.
next race, it's only Cheddar Gorge. So,
yeah. And a similar theme, I'd have Power to the Tower. I think
hmm.
this is the ideal time to it. It is a brute. So there's a lot going on that route. So what if you got your epic grade, epic again radio tower?
No, it's like long too, but I would totally do a long one on this McCurry pretzel route.
Yeah.
Like I like McCurry. Nothing too crazy on their climbs or whatever.
I don't know if I've recovered from my PTSD of doing snowman about 3 times in 5 days. To want to do that again as
Was that
well.
an FRR? That sounds like,
No, it was during chasing yellow. It was one of the routes, and I think I rode it um, because it was one of the new routes at the same time, just for a ride. Um, and I can't remember why I did it a third time. I think a bit of it came up in like a ladder race or something ridiculous. But yeah, that mine, it's top half of the grade segment. Has I've just never done well with it.
yeah.
But one of the shorter ones, if we did like if you had like a short, what's like a short New York one where you do the KOM? You could do like 2 or 3 laps of the KOM. That would be me in.
Oh, it was the glass one we've done. Actually, laps of that would be
What is it?
suitably stupid.
Is it Rising Empire?
Uh, I'm gonna have to. This is a great bit of audio while I
I
log
know,
into
I
Swift
know.
Power and
Honestly,
look
I
at
thought it
what
might be
we.
Park to Peak, but that doesn't seem
Yeah.
to.
So Rising Empire is only 20.7 kilometers, but goes up the KOM both ways.
Okay. Yeah, so 10
So,
laps of that.
yep.
I mean, if you want long, just choose all the Fondo routes. I mean, there's plenty of them now. There's
Yeah. There's a lot
seven
of,
Fondos. 52 is the shortest.
Yeah, I don't, in terms of like shorter ones that I want to do over and over again, I don't know. Like, I don't Castle crit times 10. That doesn't sound much fun. I definitely want to try all the new ones too. Like I know December 18th we get the Welsh thing that I can't pronounce. Truck Fingrana.
I was just looking at that one, yeah. So we can use that in events starting the 18th.
Yeah.
So for this gap period that Marjolein's talking, that is a possibility. Terdringa Fekan? Is that? I don't know. I'm sure it's wrong, but it's was worth a shot.
Good. We need two, I guess one's for the short, one for the long, twice for the long.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea of the short route. The short race is a less laps version of the longer route.
Hmm. Like loop-de-loop.
Yeah, I was just thinking about loop to loop too, as a you could yeah, you could do almost the loop to loop one. You almost do two loop to loops for the short and then like four for the long one.
Hmm.
Four trips up to KOM.
You could do 4 laps of Cast Pat for 100 Ks, nearly.
Yep.
I noticed none of us are volunteering vent top. We're all way too sensible for that.
I'd love it if you could do a custom start um, at the top of Ventop and race so down and back up again.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
I'm
is a
waiting for custom finishes at banners as opposed to at distances because you just can't like with the way it works and especially with steering, you just can't do custom finishes.
Well, and they're always a like indeterminate amount around a banner, aren't they? Kind of. There was
Well,
one
so
and it's
Swift
messed
Racing
up
meet
by
where
steering.
the banner was literally 100 meters before the finish, which confused a load of people.
yeah, well, so that's always the problem is the only way to do a custom distance now is to enter the distance, but it's the distance at which each rider has covered.
Hmm.
So if you have gone to the outside of every corner, you finish first, so you can be in the draft of the group and win. This is the yeah, this is a big loophole in Zwift,
I
especially
just we said
especially
before,
once they added steering and you had
yeah,
more choice on where you were.
we've said before the kind of, or certainly my dream would be that the banners become like waypoints, and as route designers, you can go take me from this banner to this banner,
Hmm.
and you meant to be able to do a via. It always takes you the same route because that's just the way it wants to go. But that would be cool for events. You could make your own sort of rebel routes with them.
Yeah. I actually like that, we've got a lot of options for routes. I think I saw a number, we've got something like 179 routes in game now or something like that. Um, there's a lot of routes. I think if you go too far with that, it's nice to know the terrain and to know a route without having to do research every time you sign up for a race. Um, but just being able to do a finish is just being able to do a fair finish
Hmm.
somewhere other than a full route would be nice.
My counter argument to that would be it would take the pressure off Swift to make a whole load of new roads because the routes could be whatever you wanted. It's like your backyard, right? Kind of.
Hmm.
Yeah,
There's like not quite infinite. It's definitely below infinite number of ways I can put a
but
ride out into the countryside
but
near me.
many. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I was like kind of scrolling around. I was looking at this new loop and lava route, right? Which is the Jarvis KOM and then up the volcano and then finish back downtown. And to your point, Steve, like that's a good route. But if it was 5 laps of Jarvis and then the volcano and finish at the volcano, like
That's a cool route. Yeah.
that's a more interesting race.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, like I'm with you, Craig. Like I get what you're saying, but for designing races and stuff, like if you're always at the behest of whatever they come up with for things like after parties and stuff, then you can't quite
Yeah.
do those kinds of fun things with it. because I think that would be like something like that has like a little bit of a climb, but that you can stay with guys. Like doing like leg snapper or whatever is a little bit too steep and hard, but something that like kind of grinds you out a bit more, and then okay, let's go
Yeah,
full.
this is a really cool, maybe one for another time, maybe tonight. But what are the elements we like to put together in races? So you mentioned leg snapper. I like that kind of 3 laps of um, downtown Innsbruck and then up the climb race because it has got a bit in it that where you have to go hard. It isn't just a cycle to the climb and go hard. But kind of I agree with you, that's a bit too long. Whereas going through the volcano, that's almost that ideal. Like you're going to have to put in probably a 30-second effort through the volcano. But if you did that a few times, like seaside sprints are always good, like the bullseye, it's always a good bullseye because you're always working hard through there, which isn't where the finish line is. And it can separate some people out. And if you then put a climb at the end of that, that would be super cool.
So I'm not directly answering Marjolein's question, but another option to do in that herd winter herd winter interval or whatever we're calling it um, would be to separate out by time slot and do a GC across those weeks. Score it by time through those races. Have a flat race, have a hilly race, and a bit more of a climb or whatever.
I
And
mean, yeah, you're right. It would be super fun. Just I
Yeah.
think the idea is that many people over Christmas can't get into as many things. They got other things going on. So
Oh, definitely. But I mean, you're talking 3 weeks. Even if it, so it's people are welcome, even if they're not in the GC and have fun. But, we're only talking 3 weeks, 4 weeks? I can't remember what the planned interval is, but
good. And did we have another around the horn topic?
Yeah, we've got the what's it, the Zwift lies it the email from Zwift where it
Right.
tells you
With
some of your
spin back.
stats.
I was not signed up for emails, so I'm waiting for
Spin
second
back,
around
that's
too.
it. Yeah, it went into my spam folder, but basically everyone I know has got the speed demon, which kind of makes me feel like that Swift's like, thanks for turning up, right? Because I do not feel like a speed demon on Swift. So I've been trying to think of kind of what would the alternative kind of spin backs be. So I don't know, mine would be like the Sockless Wonder. But so I've never managed to be organised getting on the bike on Zwift. We obviously have Bowser, who was famous for kind of tail gunning or something like that. So the tail gunner, I don't know what would our Zwift spin backs be that would more aptly describe our racing styles, do we think?
blood control device.
I think there should have been a like a fashionista one that was like person who wore the most different pieces of kit during
Well,
the
we all
event,
know Lisa would win that one.
or just boring if you only wore one kit
Yeah.
all year.
Or Larry.
yeah,
Larry's good for that too. Yeah.
rainbow, more rainbow.
Or like bike swapper for whoever used the most different bikes,
Oh, yeah.
as opposed to somebody who's rode on Tron the whole year. Or yeah, it would be the opposite one if you're like the Tron guy, like just Tron guy. Tron guy. You rode more than 90% of your rides on Tron guy.
He's here. It's Steve.
Do you have like N and then like N minus one almost?
Right.
Um,
N equals one.
Yeah.
The non-warmer upper,
Yeah.
the warm up, schwarm up.
Oh yeah,
People who don't warm
good
up.
one too.
Oh, yeah, that's probably me.
Yeah.
What about Chatty Cathy, whoever had the most messages in Zwift?
Oh yeah.
I think is that probably scorekeeper?
He messaged that many times? He messages a lot. I don't know.
He messages me during like he individually messages people during races.
Yeah, he does. He messages me too.
In the
You know,
front.
I when I did Chasing Yellow, there was this old Andy guy, and that guy was in the chat a lot. I was like, dude, I can't barely see my panel bars. What are you chatting about right now? Stop it.
Yeah.
There's a
Terrible dad jokes.
lady did chasing a crazy kitty or something like that who is just super chatty the whole time in the chat. Like even when it's hard and like you think in the category it's hard, she's like, "Oh, this is really hard." And you're like, brilliant, but she is very good fun actually. And well, it was nice to see her in the test event we did a few weeks ago. For FRS, she was in that, and also in that was wonderful and chatty, and just made it a good vibe in the race. So I don't know, maybe there's something for being a badge for being just a friendly person on rides that says hi to people.
We should be able to give them that badge. We should be able to give other people that.
I think one that was um like the mechanic badge or something like that for everyone who like either like drops internet or has to like quit a ride halfway through.
Oh, I had a
The
teammate.
the,
He,
the
yeah,
mom passed me a hammer badge. I
I
don't know.
yeah, yeah. Never made a ZRS race. Not one he signed up for.
We're all old enough to know what the sound of dial-up was. Like maybe that would be a badge. Are they?
Yeah,
Ba-ding, ba-ding,
audio
ba-ding,
badge.
boo, badge.
I think
And
it's
then
mostly Swift though.
they need
We
an alternative to pizza slices that can be universal. I don't know what that would be.
That would be a completely pointless, but quite that would entertain people, wouldn't it? Select what Zwift reports
Yeah,
calories burnt in. So you
Oh,
can have
yeah.
pizza
that would be
Kebabs,
slices, croissants, beers.
croissant.
Donuts.
Boston cream donuts, obviously,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
or
guess
beaver
like
tails. Yeah, I
there
don't
was
know.
one that was like,
favorite.
what were the ones that came out? So the one that was speed demon is because it's all based on like how many races you did. Like if you had like
Yeah.
more than half your things as races, you got speed demon or something. I don't remember what the other ones were. There was it was like World Explorer if you did lots of routes.
Those are the only two I've heard of.
Yeah, those are the only two I've seen too. Oh, workout one. There was one if you did lots of workouts.
Okay.
I can't remember what the other one was. Maybe it was like casual cruiser if you never went above 2.0.
Fitness Fiend, Speed Demon, Social Butterfly, or World Explorer are the categories. I don't know what gets you what.
What's social? Yeah, I don't know what you do to get social butterfly. Lots of
Group rides?
group rides. Yeah, must be group
Mm.
rides. So like if there was like someone who like climbed a lot, like they had more climbing meters, averaging X over 3%, you gave them like the mountain goat or something.
Yep. And Zwifting since
Oh yeah.
2018.
You're 2018. I'm only a 2020. Like probably still 50% of people on Swift.
A large number of people on Zwift, yeah.
Hmm.
Although like I did use Swift in 2015 or 16, but I dropped off it. All right. I think that's all our ideas.
I'm out. I'm out.
We're out of
Uh,
ideas. Good. Well, if you have other ideas for things that we should be doing for spin bag, drop them in the comments. Put a post up in Facebook, and yeah, let us know. Let us know if any fun ideas. But I think with that note, we will say thank you to Craig Martin, thank you to John Keenan, thank you, and one more congratulations to Steve Pritchard and Harriet. And we will say enjoy your races this weekend, everybody. We hope to see you all there. Moo and good night.